Hello, everyone. I'm Carol McNeil. For the first time, Canada has more seniors than children in this country. Whichever way you look at it, an aging population is not a good thing for a nation, no matter how fabulous you are. Our Sunday Scrum gives us their take on what the government should be doing and could be doing about that and why it matters. But first, here are the numbers. Newly released census data tells us that Canada's senior citizens now outnumber youth. There are about 5.8 million Canadians aged 14 and younger as of 2016. But there are also about 5.9 million Canadians aged 65 plus. It's owing to simple arithmetic, Canadians multiplying less, adding more years to their lives, and this means an aging population will need special services. The older population means a shrinking tax base, right when demand for health care is surging. And what about productivity? Canada's productivity has been lowering, and we're not alone. Most countries in the developed world are looking at falling population problems and wondering what to do about it. Should people over 65, for example, stay in the workforce, even when there's a technological revolution underway? Let's bring it straight to our political panel and talk about all of the implications. Denise, let me begin with you this time. Is the government focused enough on this issue? Because the whole system is based on enough people working and spending to be able to pay their taxes.
Well, hang on a second, Carol. First of all, let's not write off our Canadians over the age of 65. It's something to say we know that Canadians are living longer and healthier lives, and they still are contributing. And in fact, many folks would make the argument that, you know, it's an arbitrary retirement age of 65 because your life doesn't end at 65. We know that Canadians are living to 90 and plus. Right. So on the question of whether the government is doing enough, it is a balance between those that are exiting the workforce, who have, quite frankly, dedicated and spent decades, feeding into it, and then those that are entering in. And when we look clear across the country, around unemployment rates that in some cases are up to 10, 14% in the provinces like Newfoundland and Labrador, there is clearly an opportunity for us to continue to feed into the workforce. So it's not an issue, in my view. What we do need to be thinking about is how, when those seniors are, past the age of 85 and can perhaps no longer be in their homes or choose not to be in their homes, how are we taking care of them? And that's what I'm more interested in. Let's not write them off.
All right. Okay. To be fair, I wasn't writing them off. I can see both sides of this equation. And Susan, you were raising your fist in, Norma Ray fashion there. So What have you got to say about this?
Good for Denise. I totally agree. Short of putting seniors such as myself on an ice floe, I'm not sure how you do solve that problem. I think the pointy end of the stick is the fact that population is that people aren't having enough children. I think that's the problem, and there are reasons for that, and they've been well documented. There's more women in the workforce. Some, a lot because they want to be in the workforce.
Let's kick women out of the workforce.
Pardon me?
No, women out of the workforce.
But more importantly, something that society can do is get serious about childcare, which we've talked about endlessly. Still not serious about it. It's still a penalty for young couples to have that second child or that third child. Affordable housing is a huge problem in a number of cities. I mean, there are a lot of economic disincentives to reproducing. Let's put it that way. So if some of those can be mitigated, the other thing that's a brilliant idea, I think, just like there should be staged retirement, there should also be women and men of childbearing age. They should be allowed to withdraw from the career stream for a few years and then edge their way back in gradually. I mean, there should be a lot more flexibility. These are not new ideas.
John.
Look, the number that matters is 2.1. That's the number of children that women need to have on average to sustain a population. Canada hasn't had a fertility rate of 2.1 since the 1970s. No developed nation really has had a fertility rate of 2.1 since the 1970s. And the fertility rate is declining around the world in developing countries as well as developed countries. And Susan is wrong. There are things that you can do to help women have more children, but countries like Sweden and Singapore, even Quebec, have had aggressive policies to encourage women to have more children, and they don't raise the fertility rate back up to 2.1. It's never been successful anywhere in the world. Women, once they urbanize, once the society urbanizes, once women become educated and autonomous, women choose not to have a third child, and that's all there is to it. And frankly, I find it offensive to have a government program saying have a third kid in the national interest. What matters is your immigration rate. And here the rest of the world can learn from Canada. We are almost bringing in 1% of our population every year. We're bringing in 300,000 a year. This greatly mitigates the impact of an aging demographic. And as long as Canada continues to have very high immigration levels, I would like to see them even higher, the aging of this society will be gentle, and the stress on taxes and pensions and productivity and everything else will be manageable. We're actually doing a very good job right now in Canada, and everyone else actually should be emulating our example.
Some of the conclusions...
I would agree.
Go ahead, Denise.
Let's not put this on the backs and the bellies of Canadian women, right? So, John, you're absolutely right in terms of the immigration component, and how are we actually bringing in skilled folks to Canada? What do our rules look like that allow that to happen? But then also part of it is ensuring that, and look, the numbers, it's about a 100,000 point differential here is, what are the statisticians saying as to the ranges at 15, 20, 30, 40 years that this is going to become a problem where governments really need to look at a declining labor force? And I think that's probably most important.
Well, that's when we're talking about what to do with people who are older than 65, because, I mean, we've seen this government, there's some tinkering in the past with Stephen Harper's government to make the age of retirement 67. The Liberals moved it back to 65. John, what do you think?
Oh, it was maybe the single most foolish thing the Trudeau government has done. We do, 60 is the new 50, and 80 is the new 70, and I guess that makes dead the new 90. But the fact remains, we are living longer, and we are healthier. There are some demographers who believe that a child born today will live to 90. That is the new average life expectancy. Yeah. So we should be dividing our elder years into two areas. The years in which you're still a working senior, right. The early senior years, you can work part-time. You can maybe have a different kind of job. You certainly should not be drawing down on pension because you're healthy at this point. And then, yes, the later years when you really shouldn't be working, you should be enjoying what time remains, and you should be taking that pension.
Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
Because here's the issue. The stuff that I learned, many of us learned, even in the last 10 years, is not going to be applicable going forward. So how do we bridge that gap if you're going to keep seniors, if you're going to keep people over 65 in the workforce, they have to have the skills, and you've talked about this, John, to address the technological revolution. Susan, what do you think?
Well, I don't think old people are too stupid to get technology, although with the exception of myself.
Maybe there should be a lifelong learning program in place, and this is where we talk about
but there's different, there's some things that are learned through experience actually, and other things that are learned through, education. There's two problems, and there's also an opportunity. Indigenous Canadians have a very high birth rate compared to the rest of the population. To me, this makes it even more urgent for governments to make sure that those young people get the right, preschool education, and so on, secondary, university, and so on, and that they're encouraged and helped to become contributing members to the workforce in Canada. I think that it's not all bleak by any means, and at the other end of the scale, there's a pension crisis, as we've often talked about too. There's a lot of it. Some of us are fine. We some people, especially people who work for government, crown corporations, teachers have guaranteed pensions, but that's a minority. A lot of Canadians don't have any money for their senior years.
Okay. Well, listen, that's all the time we have for this week. I'll end on this note, though, something to think about. Japan's Shinzo Abe is investing government money in developing, I'll get your reaction to this, panel, investing money in care robots and driverless cars for the elderly. Well, there you are. Okay, we'll leave it on that note. Thank you to all the panelists, freelance columnist Susan Riley, John Ibbotson of the Globe and Mail, and managing partner of Sem Group Public Affairs, Denise CLA. Thank you, panel. See you next week.
Okay,
Bye,
Carol.
Carol.
Take care.
Bye.